Sometime in October, you're going to see a headline. It will say something like, Social Security gives seniors a big raise for next year. And for about 5 minutes, that headline is going to feel good. Here's what I want you to know before that headline ever shows up on your screen. By the time that raise actually lands in your bank account in January, a good chunk of it may already be gone. Not because anyone stole it, not because of some scandal, because of one automatic deduction that happens before you ever see the money, and one math formula that was never really designed with you in mind. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly how this year's raise is calculated, why it's bigger than usual, where a real chunk of it disappears to, and what that means in plain dollars for your actual check. No jargon, no guessing, just the real math, explained the way it should have been explained to you in the first place. If you're not subscribed yet, take a second and do that now, and turn on the bell. Every year this exact same thing happens, and every year almost nobody explains it clearly before the headlines hit. That's what this channel is for. Subscribe and let's get into it. Let's start with the basics in plain language. Every year, Social Security adjusts your monthly check to try to keep up with rising prices. This adjustment has a name, the cost of living adjustment, but you'll usually just hear it called the COLA. Think of it simply as Social Security's way of saying, things cost more this year, so here's a little more money to help cover that. Here's how they actually calculate it, in the simplest terms I can give you. The government tracks a measurement of everyday prices, things like groceries, gas, rent, and utilities. They compare prices from July, August, and September of this year to the same 3 months last year. Whatever percentage prices went up by, that becomes your raise for the following January. Last year, that number came out to 2.8%. That's the raise you're currently receiving in your check right now, in 2026. To put that in perspective, it helps to look back a few years. In 2022, the raise was 5.9%. In 2023, after a wave of inflation that hit nearly everyone hard, the raise jumped all the way to 8.7%, the biggest increase in over 4 decades. Then it cooled off, 3.2% in 2024, 2.5% in 2025, and now 2.8% this year. Raises have been bouncing around, mostly coming down as the economy settled, which is exactly why this year's jump back up to an estimated 3.8% for 2027 stands out. It's breaking the recent pattern, and as I mentioned, it's breaking that pattern for a reason tied to a real crisis, not because the economy is suddenly working better for retirees. Now here's where this year gets interesting, and a little more serious than usual. As of right now, the early estimates for next year's raise, the one that takes effect in January 2027, are sitting at around 3.8%. That's a meaningfully bigger raise than what you got this year. And I want to be upfront with you about something most coverage of this topic leaves out completely. This bigger number is not really good news. It's the result of a real problem. Earlier this year, conflict involving Iran led to a major disruption in oil shipping through one of the most important waterways in the world, a passage called the Strait of Hormuz. A huge percentage of the planet's oil moves through that passage every single day. When that route got disrupted, oil prices jumped sharply, and that increase rippled outward into gas prices, heating costs, and the price of anything that needs to be shipped or manufactured using energy. That spike is a major reason the inflation number used to calculate your raise has climbed as high as it has. I want you to sit with that for a second, because it matters for how you think about this whole topic. A bigger raise sounds like a win. But a bigger raise driven by an energy price shock means prices for the things you actually buy every week, gas, heating, groceries, are going up just as fast or faster than your check is. The raise isn't a gift. It's an attempt to catch up to a cost of living that's already running ahead of you. Now let's talk about what this actually means in real dollars, because percentages on their own don't mean much until you turn them into numbers you can picture. Right now, in 2026, the average retired worker on Social Security receives somewhere around $2,080 a month. If the 3.8% estimate holds when the official number is announced in October, that average check would rise to somewhere around $2,160 a month. That's roughly an extra $80 a month, or just under $1,000 over the full year. On paper, that looks like real money, and it is. But here's the part that almost never gets explained clearly, and it's the entire reason I made this video. For most people on Social Security, your Medicare Part B premium, the monthly cost for your medical insurance coverage, gets pulled directly out of your check automatically before that money ever reaches your bank account. You don't have to do anything for this to happen. It just happens every single month without you lifting a finger. Right now, in 2026, that Part B premium is $202.90 a month. Based on current government healthcare cost projections, that premium is expected to rise to somewhere around $218.60 a month in 2027. That's roughly an extra $15 to $16 a month, pulled straight out of your raise before you ever see it. And this isn't a one-time thing. This premium has been climbing steadily for years, often faster than people expect. It rose by about 5.9% in 2024, another 5.9% in 2025, then a much sharper 9.7% jump in 2026, the year you're in right now. 3 years in a row of real increases, each one taking another bite out of whatever raise arrived that January. When you stack those increases up against the COLA you received in those same years, you start to see why so many retirees feel like their check never actually grows the way the news says it should. So let's do the real math together, the math that doesn't usually make it into the headline. Your raise might add about $80 a month to your check. Your Medicare premium increase takes back somewhere around $15 to $16 of that, automatically. That means the actual increase you feel in your day-to-day life is closer to $65 a month, not $80. And that's before you even account for the price increases on groceries, gas, and everything else that the original COLA was supposed to be covering in the first place. I do want to mention one small protection that exists here, because it matters and most people have never heard of it. There's a rule called the hold harmless provision. In simple terms, it means your Medicare premium increase generally cannot be large enough to make your Social Security check smaller than it was the year before. So your check won't go backward because of this. But that protection only stops your check from shrinking. It does nothing to stop a big portion of your raise from quietly disappearing into that premium increase before it ever reaches you. Now, I want to zoom out because there's a deeper structural issue underneath all of this. And once you understand it, this entire topic makes a lot more sense. The inflation number used to calculate your COLA is called the CPIW. In plain English, this measures price changes based on the spending habits of working-age people with jobs, mostly younger and middle-aged workers who are out there earning paychecks. The problem is, you are very likely not spending your money the same way a 35-year-old office worker is. You are probably spending a much larger share of your income on healthcare, on prescriptions, and on housing costs that don't move the same way the rest of the economy does. There's actually a different measurement that exists specifically to track how older Americans spend money. It's called the CPIE, with the E standing for elderly. Research using this index has shown that healthcare and housing costs, the two categories that matter most to retirees, have consistently risen faster than the overall basket of goods used in the standard calculation. But Social Security doesn't use this index to calculate your raise. It still uses the standard one, built around the spending habits of working adults, not retirees. Here's a simple way to picture why this gap matters. Imagine two people. One is 35 years old, renting an apartment, paying for gas to commute to work, and rarely visiting a doctor. The other is 75 years old, on a fixed income, managing 2 or 3 prescriptions, and paying a Medicare premium every single month, no matter what. When the price of gasoline drops, the 35-year-old feels real relief in their monthly budget. The 75-year-old barely notices, because gas was never a big slice of their spending in the first place. But when prescription costs or insurance premiums climb, it's the reverse. The retiree feels it immediately and heavily while the working adult barely notices. The standard inflation measurement averages both of these experiences together, and that average ends up looking a lot more like the 35-year-old's life than the 75-year-old's. Over time, this gap adds up to something significant. According to research from the Senior Citizens League, a nonpartisan group that tracks this issue closely, Social Security benefits have lost roughly 14% of their buying power since 2016. Put another way, the same dollar of Social Security income that bought you about 86 cents worth of real goods and services back then is what you're effectively living on today, even after every COLA increase along the way. That means, in practical terms, your check today buys meaningfully less than the same dollar amount would have bought you a decade ago, even after every single COLA increase you've received along the way. The raises have been happening. They just haven't been keeping up. So where does that leave you, practically speaking, heading into this October's announcement? First, treat the headline number with a healthy dose of realism. When you hear 3.8% or whatever the final number turns out to be, don't picture that full percentage landing in your pocket. Mentally subtract your expected Medicare premium increase first. That gives you a much more honest picture of what you're actually getting. And it means you'll be planning your January budget around a real number instead of a headline. Second, this is a good moment to check whether you qualify for the Medicare Savings Program, something I've covered in detail in another video on this channel. If your income falls within certain limits, this program can eliminate your Part B premium entirely, which means the premium increase I just described wouldn't even apply to you. The income thresholds get updated each year based on the federal poverty level, so it's worth checking your eligibility fresh every year, not just assuming the answer is the same as last year. A quick call to your state Medicaid office costs you nothing and takes about 15 minutes. Third, once the official COLA is announced in October, don't wait for your January check to find out your new numbers. Log into your My Social Security account at ssa.gov. The Social Security Administration typically posts your personalized benefit verification letter online in early December, which will show your exact new monthly amount before the new year even starts. Seeing the real number ahead of time means no surprises when that first January deposit lands. Fourth, if you're someone who pays a Medicare Part D premium for prescription drug coverage, remember that those costs are separate from Part B and are not automatically deducted the same way for everyone. It's worth reviewing your specific plan's premium changes during open enrollment each fall, because that's another place where part of your raise can quietly get absorbed if you're not paying attention. And fifth, if you're someone who pays an income-related surcharge on top of your Medicare premium, known as IRMA, based on a higher income from a couple years back, it's worth double-checking that surcharge is still accurate for your current situation. I covered this in detail in another video, including the exact form to file if your income has dropped since then. A surcharge calculated on old, higher income can eat into this raise just as easily as the standard premium increase can. Let me also answer a question I know some of you are already asking. What if my premium increase is somehow larger than my raise? Doesn't that mean my check actually goes down? For the vast majority of people, no. There's a specific protection in place. The hold harmless provision I mentioned earlier that generally prevents your Part B premium increase from making your check smaller than it was the year before. The exceptions tend to be a small group of people, including those who are brand new to Medicare that year, those who have their premium billed separately rather than withheld from their check, and those already paying that higher income-related surcharge. If none of those describe you, your check should still grow, just by less than the headline percentage suggests. Here's the honest, full picture, one more time. This year's Social Security raise is on track to be bigger than usual, current estimates sitting around 3.8%. But that bigger number exists because of a real energy price shock tied to conflict overseas, not because retirees suddenly got a windfall. A real portion of that raise, likely $15 to $20 a month or more, will be quietly absorbed by your rising Medicare Part B premium before you ever see it. And underneath both of those facts sits a longer-term problem. The formula used to calculate your raise was never built around how retirees actually spend their money, which is a major reason Social Security has lost real buying power over the past decade, even with a raise arriving every single year. None of this means the raise is meaningless. Every extra dollar matters when you're living on a fixed income. It just means you deserve to know the real number, not the headline number, before you start planning around it. If you know someone on Social Security who's going to see that big raise headline in October and take it at face value, send them this video before then. 5 minutes now could save them a confusing surprise when their January check doesn't match what the news led them to expect. That's what this channel is here for. I'll see you in the next one.